She cannot see his face. That is the first thing you need to understand about this woman. For 18 years she has been bent double, her spine curved so severely, so completely, that her eyes can only find the ground. She sees sandals, she sees dust, she sees the hem of robes passing by. When she walks through the market in this small Galilean town, she sees feet, never faces, never eyes, never the sky. The Greek word Luke uses for her condition is sukupto, bent together, completely bowed down, not leaning, not stooped, folded, like a letter sealed and pressed flat, unable to open itself. She has been this way for 18 years. And here is something that Luke does not explain, but every Jewish listener in his audience would have caught immediately. A detail hiding in plain sight the moment you know where to look. 18. In Hebrew, each letter of the alphabet carries a numerical value. This system is called gematria, and the Jewish world has used it for centuries to find layers of meaning beneath the surface of a text. The Hebrew word chai, spelled chet and yod, the 8th and 10th letters of the alphabet, means life. And the numerical value of chet plus yod is 8 plus 10, 18. Chai means life. 18 is the number of life. And this woman has been bound by a spirit of weakness. Luke calls it pneuma asthenias, a spirit of infirmity, for exactly 18 years. She has been robbed of life for the length of life itself. Stay with me, because the number is not the only thing hiding in this story. It is the Sabbath. Jesus is teaching in a synagogue somewhere in Galilee, and this woman is there. We do not know her name. Luke does not give it to us. We know only that she is a woman, that she is bent, and that she has been this way since before some of the younger men in that room were born. She has worshipped at this synagogue, perhaps, for all 18 of those years. She has heard the prayers. She has heard the reading of the Torah. She has never been called forward. She has never been invited to stand. Jesus sees her across the room. He does not wait for her to ask. He does not send a disciple. He does not finish his teaching first. He sees her, and he stops, and he calls to her. Woman, you are loosed from your infirmity. That is all. He lays his hands on her. And immediately, Luke uses the word parashrema, instantly, on the spot. She straightens. After 18 years, she stands upright. And the first face she sees, the first face she has seen at eye level in nearly 2 decades, is his. She praises God, loudly. The text says she glorified God. She was giving glory. She was declaring his worth in the middle of the synagogue floor. 18 years of silence, 18 years of looking at the ground, and the moment she could stand, she opened her mouth and the praise poured out. But not everyone in that room was praising God. The synagogue ruler was watching. Luke calls him the archisynagogos, the administrator of the synagogue, the man responsible for keeping worship orderly and the community in good standing with the law of Moses. Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, describes these men in his Antiquities of the Jews as respected community leaders, guardians of tradition, men with real power in their towns. This man had real power in this town, and he was angry. He did not address Jesus directly. That is the first thing you notice when you read his words carefully. He turned to the crowd that was already rejoicing, already praising God alongside this woman. And he announced, with the authority of a man who knew the rule book better than anyone in the room, "There are 6 days in which men ought to work. Therefore come and be healed on them, and not on the Sabbath day. 6 days, not today." He was right about the law, or at least he believed he was. The Mishnah, the great written collection of Jewish oral law, lists 39 categories of labor forbidden on the Sabbath. Healing could be classified as work. He had a legal argument. He was not a villain who hated this woman. He was a man who believed, with everything in him, that the rules existed to protect something holy. But here is what most people miss. He did not look at her either. He turned to the crowd. He spoke to the people. He referenced the 6 days. He never once addressed the woman who was standing upright for the first time in 18 years, glorifying God in the middle of his synagogue floor. He saw a violated rule. Jesus had seen a bound person. That difference between what the ruler saw and what Jesus saw is the whole argument about to happen. Jesus answered him, not gently. Luke says Jesus answered the ruler. The Greek word is apokrytheos, a formal response to a formal charge. This was not a quiet correction between friends. This was a public rebuttal. Spoken in the synagogue, in front of the congregation, on the Sabbath. You hypocrite! Does not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or his donkey from the stall and lead it away to water it? So ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has bound, think of it, for 18 years, be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? Read that slowly. Read it a second time, because Jesus did not just make an argument. He constructed a parallel so precise that it dismantles the ruler's logic from the inside out. The word for loose in that passage, apoluō in the Greek, is the same word used in both cases. You loose the ox, you loose the donkey, she should be loosed from her bond, the same action, the same word. The only difference is the object, an animal you own, a woman created in the image of God. The ruler's tradition permitted untying an animal on the Sabbath because to deny water to an ox would cause suffering. And if an animal's suffering could be relieved on the Sabbath, then the relief of human suffering was not a violation of the Sabbath. It was the entire point of the Sabbath. Now watch what happens next. Jesus does not stop at the legal argument. He reaches further back, past Moses, past the law, past the Sabbath regulations, all the way to Abraham. A daughter of Abraham whom Satan has bound. That phrase had weight in that room that you and I might not immediately feel. In first-century Jewish tradition, son of Abraham was a term of inclusion, of covenant membership, of spiritual dignity. The phrase daughter of Abraham appears almost nowhere in Jewish literature of that period. Jesus was not just healing a woman, he was naming her. He was calling her into the covenant by name, publicly, on the Sabbath, in front of the man who had turned away from her face to address the crowd. He had seen her, and now everyone in that room had to see her too. And then Jesus said the thing that should stop you cold. Whom Satan has bound, think of it, for 18 years. Think of it. That phrase, idou in the Greek, means look or behold. It is a word used to force attention, to make the listener stop and actually see what is being described. Jesus wanted everyone in that room to feel the weight of that number, not just count it. Feel it. 18 years. A child born the year this woman was first bent is now old enough to be married. A sapling planted that year is now tall enough to offer shade. 18 years of every Sabbath arriving and passing. 18 years of prayers she could not stand fully upright to recite. 18 years of watching sandals in dust and the hems of other people's robes. 18 years of chai, of life, spent in a kind of living death. And she had still come to the synagogue. That is the detail that most people rush past. You need to stop there. This woman had not given up on worship. She had not concluded, after 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, that if God had not healed her yet, God was not going to. She kept coming. She kept showing up on the Sabbath, bent double, invisible, to hear the Torah read and to be in the presence of God with her community. She did not know that this particular Sabbath was different from the ones before it. She did not know that the teacher in the synagogue that day had already seen her before she saw him. Here's the part nobody tells you about this passage. Jesus did not heal her because she asked him to. He did not heal her because her faith moved him. He did not heal her in response to anything she did. Luke records no request, no conversation, no expression of faith before the healing. Jesus saw her, called her forward, and healed her. Full stop. The initiative was entirely his. She had been faithful for 18 years. And on the 18th year, the year of Chai, Jesus walked into her synagogue and acted on what she could not ask for herself. The crowd rejoiced. Luke says that when Jesus spoke those words, when he named her, when he answered the argument, when he made the parallel between the ox and the daughter of Abraham, all his adversaries were put to shame. And the multitude, the people who had been watching this unfold in real time, rejoiced for all the things that had been done by him. The ruler had spoken to the crowd. Jesus had answered him in front of the crowd, and the crowd had chosen. But the deepest moment in this story is not the argument won or the adversaries shamed. It is a phrase, 3 words in Greek, 4 in English, that has no parallel anywhere in Jewish scripture or literature before this moment. Daughter of Abraham. In the entire Hebrew Bible, from Genesis to Malachi, from Abraham's first call to the last words of the last prophet, No woman is ever called a daughter of Abraham. Sons of Abraham, yes, the covenant flows through sons. But daughters? Not once. Not in the Torah, not in the prophets, not in the writings. And then Jesus says it, out loud, in a synagogue, on the Sabbath, to a woman whose face no one has been looking at for 18 years. He did not just give her a straight spine. He gave her a name in the covenant. He placed her inside the promise of Abraham not as a footnote or a dependent, but as a full inheritor, a daughter, not a subject, a member, not a visitor. Pay attention to this, because this is the moment the whole passage has been building toward. The synagogue ruler had said, "Come back in 6 days." The implication was clear. You, woman, can wait. Your suffering can wait. The calendar matters more than your body. Come back when it is convenient for the institution. Jesus said, 18 years is already too long. The number was not random. Nothing in this story was random. The number 18, chai, life, was the length of her bondage and the name of what Jesus came to restore. He healed her on the day of rest because the Sabbath was always supposed to be about freedom. The people of Israel in Egypt had no Sabbath. They worked 7 days every day with no end because they were enslaved. The Sabbath was God's declaration that his people were no longer slaves. They could stop, they could rest, they were free. And a woman who has been bound for 18 years, bound by Satan, bent to the ground, unable to lift her face to the sky, is not free. Healing her on the Sabbath was not a violation of the Sabbath. It was the most Sabbath thing Jesus could have done. And that brings us to the 3 things this story will not let you forget. The first is this: Jesus sees you before you ask him to. This woman never spoke a word before the healing. She did not push through a crowd. She did not climb a roof to lower herself down on a mat. She did not cry out from the roadside. She was simply there, bent, faithful, present, and Jesus called her forward without being asked. If you are in a season where you feel like you do not even have the words to pray, where you are not sure your request is worth bringing, where you have been waiting so long that asking again feels embarrassing, know this: the initiative in this story was his. He saw her first. He moved first. He healed her before she could form the sentence. The second is this: the number of your years does not disqualify you. 18 years, not 2, not 5, 18. Long enough for a child to grow into an adult, long enough for a generation to turn over, long enough for hope to go quiet inside you without you even noticing it going. And yet the length of her waiting was written into the very name of what Jesus came to give her. If you have been waiting a long time, if you have been bent under something for years, and you have counted the seasons and they have passed, Jesus is not unaware of the length. He counted her years. He called them chai and showed up anyway. The third is the hardest and the truest. When Jesus called her a daughter of Abraham, he was not making a compliment. He was making a declaration. He was saying, this woman belongs here. She has always belonged here. The covenant that started with Abraham was never only for the ones who could stand at full height and make eye contact and look impressive in the synagogue. It was for the bent. It was for the invisible. It was for the woman whose name we do not even know, whom nobody had called forward in 18 years, whom the ruler did not look at when he turned to address the crowd. She is the one Jesus called. She is the one Jesus named. If you have ever felt like you were standing at the edges of the room, unable to lift your face, not sure whether you were really included, this story was written for you. The covenant that Jesus brought was not a renegotiation of Abraham's promise. It was the full arrival of it. And in that synagogue, on that Sabbath, on the day of rest, Jesus stood up and proved it. He saw a daughter, he freed her, and the number was never, ever random. If this video helped you see something in Scripture you had not seen before, the best thing you can do is subscribe so you do not miss the next one. And if you want to go deeper, there are more videos on this channel looking at the moments in the Gospels where the details, the numbers, the names, the words carry more weight than anyone realized. The Bible is full of things hiding in plain sight. We will keep looking at them together.